And welcome to episode 12 of the MMAHOLICS. Thank y'all so much for joining us for episode 12 of the MMAHOLICS. We're going to do a late night review of UFC Vegas 87. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. We apologize for missing that UFC Mexico. We just had a lot of personal stuff going on during that week. It was a good card. Definitely a fun card. I really enjoyed it. How'd you feel about UFC Mexico, Nikki, before we start on this?
This is a fire card. If anyone was on Twitter, they would know I went 6-6 in the first 6 fights with besides the first fight of the night, 5 perfect picks in a row. So that was very fun. And then for the rest of the night, I don't think I got a single pick, but it was good. How were your picks? Because I know you made them, but you didn't.
Oh yeah, they were good. I went like 7-5 maybe, like 8-4. It was something like that. I know the main card I did relatively good. Of course, the main event and the co-main definitely threw people for a little. Shout out to Brian Ortega and Brandon Royval. Just before we get to this card, I just want to talk about those 2 fights right quick. Yeah, man, congratulations to Brian. He looked good, man. He weathered that early storm, especially coming off that shoulder injury, especially with the surgery. He said he had to get surgery. And, it was like getting his second time maybe getting a shoulder surgery. So just having that happen and having to go through that long layoff and really go through that rigorous training camp to make sure he was still good. And he came right back and fought the number 2 dude. So it's not like, he got a layup. Yair was coming off 2 title fights coming into that fight. And yeah, man, and he weathered that early storm, started putting it on him with the boxing. Got the takedown eventually, and then got the submission. I thought he looked really good, man. It was an elevation. Gas tank still looked good. Didn't really slow down at all. Just really had to wait for Yair to slow down. Really had to just take his best shots, which he did. And yeah, man. And even then, Yair was looking good, man. I don't want to make it seem like I'm crapping on Yair or anything like that. I think he was really doing what Yair does in the first round. It's just I think he was surprised, man. I really felt like he couldn't believe Brian, he couldn't get the ref stoppage, especially in the first round, when he had him on the ground, he went into his guard with reckless abandon, started landing ground and pound shots, still wasn't able to finish Brian Ortega, unfortunately. And yeah, man, we saw what happened in the third. But how'd you feel about that co-main event, man? Brian Ortega.
That was crazy, dude. That fight, Ortega was fighting on pure adrenaline too, because obviously the ankle roll. As someone who their ankle is at least 1,000 times playing basketball, I know the feeling because it's gonna sit with you in that fight. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts wrapping up his ankles before fights now because of that. Because that was crazy to roll it before the fight. I mean, the coaches, you saw the panic, but it was crazy because obviously the first round, dudes was like, "Oh, yeah, you're violated," and then was it the first round that Ortega ended on top, or it was the second round? I think it was the first round. It was the second because I just remember him getting beat the whole round. I think it was the first because he was getting beat all round, and then he reversed something and ended up on top, which avoided a 10-8 round for sure. But I thought it was going to go to a decision, even though I had it as a knockout. Once the fight started, I thought Ortega did look pretty good. The surgeries were a worry for me. Oh, we lost Antoine. He'll be right back. But the surgeries were a worry for me. But it's I once the fight started, he looked good, so I thought it was gonna be a decision. But yeah, he got it done. He had great jiu-jitsu in that fight. He did his thing, got the submission, and the little stoppage at the end had all that going. Apparently, he said his eardrums were popped over his weight cut. His eardrums popped so he couldn't hear the ref stop the fight. I guess he felt the hands, but he didn't, So that's just the adrenaline going. Got Antoine back in here. The main event, man, Royval, he does his thing. He has really good boxing. You can't deny him no more now. That feathering, a lot of people don't like it. A lot of people think he wasn't putting together good combos together. But my view on it, Moreno wasn't doing much either besides forcing that overhand. The man is back.
And I'm back. I'm sorry about that, guys. Can you hear me, Nikki?
You're all good, man.
All right, bet. Yeah, first off, I want to say shout out to RJ's, my man RJ's in the chat. Just a great dude. Guys, please go subscribe to his content. He's a really, really great YouTuber, super consistent. And overall, it's like, a great guy, man. Like, always love talking to him about some MMA, talking about some fights. He's a great dude. And yeah, guys, go subscribe to the boy RJ's. But yeah, moving on to this card though. And even then about the UFC Mexico main event, did want to address that because we did miss that card. Again, thank y'all for bearing with us. but yeah, man. I think something might have been wrong with Brandon Moreno, man. I don't want to take it from Royval. Absolutely not. Absolutely not, bro. But I really think that just with Brandon Moreno, how he's usually very aggressive with his forward pressure. Very assertive in the fights. It's especially how close the distance, try to force the fight to the ground, get some scrambles, and even then how he'll box. He has really good boxing combinations. He doesn't have to just duck his head under and try to wing overhands and stuff like that. I feel like there definitely might have been maybe like a leg issue or something wrong. You heard Royval's corner say something about in the second round when Brandon was walking that his leg is messed up, and yeah, man, that's just I mean, that's MMA. You can't do nothing about it. Again, shout out to Brandon Royval. He had a fantastic performance. Took the fight on short notice and went up to Mexico City, which is higher than Denver, Colorado when it comes to elevation. And he looked great, man, all 5 rounds. And speaking of Denver, Colorado, he trains in Denver, Colorado. So that definitely helped him acclimate to the training camp quicker than he would have if he would have had a regular training camp, 8-9 weeks out of Mexico City. Stuff like that, But again, I thought it was a chill main event on a really good card. All the Mexicans came through. It was, most of them, some lost, unfortunately. But yeah, how'd you feel about the UFC Mexico main event?
Yeah, I just moved on to what you were going, but I was just saying, there's really no denying Royval. A lot of people say what they want. They don't like how he won that fight, the decision. When you look at the scorecards it was all over the place. It was 10-9 here, 10-9 there, 10-9 there, 10-9. So it was really out of place. There was no no similarities between the 3 judges. But the thing with it, it's it's hard to judge it because the UFC doesn't even know how they feel about feathering. So a lot of output versus good striking. It's the same thing that happened with Strickland and Duplessis. So people were Royval wasn't putting together combos. You're just listening to what the announcers were saying. He was still, if he wasn't putting together combos, Moreno didn't put together one combo the whole fight because all he was throwing was overhands. And yeah, there was definitely something up with him because I've never seen him fight like that. It was just straight overhands,
Right.
Really.
Yeah, weird. Man. Nah, I agree, man. And again, it's not to take nothing away from Royval. It's just making an assessment with Brandon Moreno's performance. Of course, it was the battle of the Brandons. And we'll see what comes out of this. Obviously, the UFC 301 main event. I mean, obviously, that would be Pantoja. If it would be anyone, he last fought at UFC 296. That would be a 5 pay-per-view break. So that'd be some time off. He didn't take that much damage against Brandon Royval at 296, so I do think he could fight in Brazil. Obviously, he would love to do it, main event in his home country like that with all his friends and family there. We saw how emotional he was when he won the title, and the words he was talking about with his father and stuff like that. So clearly, he's definitely had some stuff going on in his family, and I definitely that would be a real dream come true for Alexandre Pantoja to defend the belt in Brazil, and of course. We'll see if Brandon Royval does indeed get the title shot. Getting the victory over Moreno does make him the number 1 contender, of course. And we're going to see what happens. Of course, Alex Perez is on this card, along, fighting Mohamed Mokaev. That is a big fight in the flyweight division. We're definitely going to address that when we get to the fight and how it will affect the division. And yeah, guys, with that being said, UFC Mexico, it was a good card. I just wanted to address that right quick because we know we missed that card. We deeply apologize about that. And yeah, again, any last thoughts on UFC Mexico or
that's great card? Mexican fighters always put on a show for us. So
of course, always coming up.
Mexico versus Brazil practically was that whole card. I was watching it with one of my roommate's friends came over and he was Brazilian and we were talking before the fight. He's just throwing out some Brazilian fighter names, some old dudes. Victor Belfort, Anderson Silva, whatever. So we're chopping it up, and then we're watching the fights, and he's rooting for these Brazilian fighters like every fight, and I'm like, hold on, is this just Mexico versus Brazil? All these fights, it's crazy. Like even when they do a card for all Mexican fighters, the Brazilians still take over. But I mean, the Mexicans were winning the fight, so. But yeah, man, let's crack into this UFC fight night, man.
Of course, guys. Yeah, again, want to thank y'all for joining us for this late night breakdown of UFC Vegas 87. Gonna go ahead and get right into it with the first fight of the night. Rozenstruik versus Abdul Al-Sawadi. Yeah, man, this is a good fight. I really like it. I got to see Rozenstruik fight at UFC 285. Of course, I believe he lost that fight. It was really unfortunate. No, he won again. Yeah, that was against Esteban Ribovics. I was thinking about the Matias Rebecki fight. When he lost to Matias Rebecki, of course, he got knocked out by via overhand left. He did miss weight in that fight, unfortunately. But hey, obviously they're giving him another chance, and hopefully he can just redeem himself going into this next fight with his weight. And yeah, man, going into my pick in the fight, I was going to go with Al-Sawadi, man. I just really like his momentum right now. I'm a big fan of it. We saw him on Dana White's Contender Series when he beat George Hardwick like that. I was really, really high on George Hardwick coming out of Cage Warriors. And he just took all that hype, man. George Hardwick has amazing boxing, great body shots, and good jiu-jitsu as well. And he just nullified all of it. He beat him by unanimous decision. Wasn't really any controversy. Couldn't really say, any of that. And he's a good fighter, man. He has 8 wins via knockout, 2 wins via submission, and 5 wins via decision. Of course, he does have 3 losses via TKO, but it's MMA. It wasn't bad competition. He was facing Overeem Brave, so hey, is what it is, And even right now, he's on a really good win streak with 5 in a row. And again, coming off the George Hardwick win, so that shows he was learning from his mistakes, coming off the losses. And yeah, man, I do think it's going to be a competitive fight. It's going to be a good fight. I really feel that way to start off the card. Got an early afternoon card at 1:30 in the morning. I mean in the afternoon. But yeah, I was going to go with Al-Sawadi. How you feeling?
Yeah, I'm also going with Al-Sawadi. This one is one of the closer fights of the night. There wasn't too much, UFC intel you have on these two guys, but you could look up the stats. Ratsabov, he has a 7.30 takedowns per average on 15 minutes, which is super high. So I just noticed it's going to be like one of those super high grappling versus striking because Abdul Karim has way better striking, in my opinion. And yeah, I have him winning by decision, Abdul Karim. I think it's going to be a good fight. I think they're going to be going back and forth, exchanging in the pocket, clinching. You know how those type of fights go.
Absolutely. Absolute bangers. Always. Yeah, man. Moving on to the next fight of the night. I got Ludwig Klein versus AJ Cunningham. First off, man, I want to give a big shout out to AJ Cunningham. Man, he took this fight on short notice. He absolutely did not have to do that. Of course, we know Ludwig Klein was originally scheduled to face Joel Alvarez, the 6'2" lightweight. He had to pull out, unfortunately. But hey, that's MMA. It was visa issues that Alvarez was suffering from. So hopefully, we can just get that fixed and, so he can get back in there, he's a really, really good fighter, Joel Alvarez. And yeah, when it comes to Klein, 8 wins via knockout, 8 wins via submission, and 4 wins via decision. He's a really, really versatile fighter. Very dynamic when, when he's on, as you could say. And yeah, really powerful, powerful kicks, good boxing combinations, good power in both hands. You could definitely say that. And yeah, man, I do think he's a really cerebral fighter when he's on. I know he got choked out by Nate Landwehr, but that was in the 3rd round, and that was a war, that was a pretty competitive fight until that happened. And I do think Nate Landwehr is a pretty good fighter himself. We saw what Nate Landwehr did when he was in M1 Challenge. And he's, a really good fighter. He Nate the Train, they always say. But yeah, man, even talking about Klein, only 2 losses in the UFC are to Michael Trisano and Nate Landwehr. Outside of that, he's looked pretty good. Of course, you could say whatever you want about the competition. getting a win over Mason Jones. Of course, he isn't inside the UFC anymore, but I still think Mason Jones is a good fighter. It's a really good win over Ignacio Bahamondes. We know how good of a prospect Bahamondes is. He's still really young, and I think he's nowhere near a finished product. Man, he's a great striker. And yeah, man, going to Ludovic's opponent, AJ Cunningham. Again, want to give a big shout out to the Savage, literally to this on short notice. You feel me? Yeah, man. So in terms of his career, he has 4 wins via knockout, 4 wins via sub, and 3 wins via decision. He's a good fighter. You could definitely say that. I mean, it's just unfortunately he's having some ups and downs in his career right now. He lost to Steven Nguyen on Contender Series. Of course, he got a bounce back win over Justin Lam Perez. Can't really take too much away from that. We do know that Justice has an 8-10 record. But hey, like how we always say, in MMA, you fight who you're given. And yeah, he has a lot of arm bars. A lot of submissions really, and a lot of knockouts. So it is cool to see that he's a versatile fighter himself. And yeah, man, going into my pick in this fight, I was gonna go to Ludovit Klein. It's unfortunate that AJ didn't really get a proper training camp for this fight, but I really think that then the -900 might be indicative of the performance. And yeah, man, also the momentum that Klein's coming off now is especially like how I said with the win over Bahamondes and yeah, man, I just think he can definitely just get the job done in this one for sure. But shout out to AJ, low stuff.
Yeah, -900 is insane. But I'm also going Klein. I have him winning by decision in this fight. I just looked at the fighters that Klein's fought, and there's just like a big difference in the people that they both fought in their careers, right? I think there's a little more experience. Went to a drawer with Jai Herbert. Like you said, he beat Ignacio. He was scheduled to fight Jim Miller. So that just goes to show you what kind of fighter Klein is. Cunningham, he's had this Contender Series fight and he lost. It's no knock. My UFC 5 fighter is 10-9 right now in the LFA, trying to make his way to the UFC at 26 years old. So who cares about the record? You'll get there eventually, right? So who cares about the competition he's fighting? He's taking this on short notice, so he's a beast. +600. Here's my thing with these types of fights: throw $1 or $2 on +600 because these dudes could always come in and shock you. But I'm taking Klein by decision.
By decision, I feel you. I might go with a second round knockout for Ludovit Klein.
Okay.
Shout out to Cunningham though, man. Of course. Yeah, I mean, going to this next one. You could break down this next one, man. You go ahead, give your pick first. Go ahead.
All right. So for this fight, I got Duncan. I have him winning by a second round knockout. This one I have being a war. This one's going to definitely be a back and forth. But Duncan just definitely has better striking. Yeah, man. What are you thinking?
Yeah, man. I got CLD. I think he's a better technical striker. Really composed when he's focused. We saw what he did in Cage Warriors. Of course, not. Some people aren't really high on Cage Warriors like that, man. A lot of people in the MMA community don't really approve of Cage Warriors. But of course, it's still a matter of what he showed in the fights. He was 7-0. Coming out of Cage Warriors, and we saw him lose to Armin Petrosian, but we saw what he did to Dennis Tululin. Of course, Armin Petrosian is better than Dennis Tululin, but I definitely want to give Christian Leroy Duncan, the opportunity just to, improve in his 3rd fight in the UFC. Now, his 4th fight, actually, fourth fight, with that. But we do know that Dusko Todorovic did get a knee injury in that fight, unfortunately. So you could definitely say this is technically his 3rd fight, but we're going to see what happens. He is a good fighter with his striking, with his distance management, with his footwork. I like his versatile, man. His versatile striking on the feet, like his spinning kicks. He does have decent hands as well, for sure. He just has to be, just to stay focused in the fight and really just come out, respect the opponent. We know how it can be when these dudes come off the regional scene with a lot of hype and yeah, man. I got CLD. I got him a second round TKO.
Yeah, same. Second round. Yeah, when with that, you kind of just I looked through these dudes' fights, right? You see, he got a recent second round knockout. I was giving you guys the sauce on how I do my breakdown sometimes. You see, you got a second round knockout, and then you come to Ribeiro down here. You see a lot of these fights ending in the first and second round, and I don't think he's going to get knocked out in the first. So I'll give it a. That's how I pick a second round knockout. If anyone's ever wondering how I give my picks, why I'll say second or third round, I definitely go off their past fights because it shows what rounds they give all their energy in, right? So if it's saying they're ending all their fights in the first round, but you don't think this dude's going to get knocked out in the first round, you take a second round knockout by the other guy because this dude's never been to the second round, right? So all his energy is going to be gone. I'll give you guys some sauce later on once we get down the card.
Yeah, nah, you're hilarious, bro. Always. But yeah, man, moving on. Got a bantamweight bout coming up. Javid Basharat versus Ayman Zahabi. You know, we got one of the best prospects in the Ultimate Fighting Championship to this day. Yeah, man, he's really, really good. Versatile fighter, very cerebral. It's really, really well-rounded, man. Like, you know, like we're obviously starting to see that new age of fighter come inside the UFC, like who are just like, you know, they're just like A tier in like every facet of the game, like the striking, the grappling. Javid Basharat, you know, like he has good gas tank as well. I think he's look really good so far, man. I mean, like I do think like he has a lot of upside. Eventually he will be a top 10 bantamweight in the UFC. I really do believe that. I just really think he has to really get the opponent. We know how some fighters can be when they're fighting these undefeated young guys. Not really much upside in finding a dude lower than you that doesn't really have that much of a name yet. And I totally understand that, you know. But I do think eventually he will get up there and be one of those top guys in the bantamweight division. His brother's really good too, Farid Basharat as well. But yeah, man, going to his opponent, Ayman Zahabi, you know, brother of one of the greatest coaches in mixed martial arts history, without a doubt. The biggest thing against Ayman Zahabi going against him, man, is just his inactivity. But his last two performances, he has looked great. Two of them ending by knockout, man. You know, got the win over Draco Rodriguez, got the decision win over Ricky Tercios, and the knockout win over Araki Long. We did see him lose to Ricardo Ramos and Vince Morales, but I definitely think he's turned a corner in his career since then. I think his brother has, like, you know, after those two losses, his brother really set him down, or so the whole team really set him down and really devised just a better game plan, a better coaching system, and like it's really paying off in the cage for him. Of course, the biggest thing also going against him is his age. Like I said, he's been fairly inactive. He's 36 years old. So you know, MMA ages are different in terms of primes and stuff, but we know at bantamweight, at the lower weight classes, you need that speed, that agility, as well as strength and power. And I think that Javid Basharat, man, I think he has the advantage in this fight. And I'm just going to go with Javid Basharat by unanimous decision.
Yeah, I'm not going to waste too much time on this one. This one's easy to take Basharat. You take both Basharat brothers. Until they're fighting ranked contenders, you should be taking them on both your picks, but especially Javid, you take Javid on this fight. Take this one by decision. He's only won by decision in the UFC so far. Last one was a no contest. But yeah, you definitely take Javid on this one. You don't overthink that. You don't overthink that fight. He's a good fighter. You just got to respect it.
Right, yeah. Shout out to the Basharat brothers, man. We're gonna see what they're gonna do, man. Of course, how we always say in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, you can see your favorite fighter get knocked out live on camera after they've been dominant their whole career. And that could happen to them eventually, but it might not be this day. But we'll see what happens, man. Moving on to the next one. You can give your pick in this one first, Nikki, if you want, bro.
All right, we got Oliveira versus Sopaj. I got Oliveira winning by knockout. I saw this one. This one going to be a big striking fest, and I saw there was massive reach advantage. I think was going to favor Oliveira in this fight. Oliveira's on a 2-fight win streak compared to a 3-fight win streak by Sopaj. Could look over here real quick. See, got a submission win or submission to punches, straight right and a head kick. So he's looking for the finish. You know, good strikers, as you could see. Now to Oliveira. See, left hook, punches. These dudes are going to go to war, try and knock each other out.
Right.
Yeah, simple as that. What are you thinking?
Yeah, nah, man, we're gonna agree on this one too. I got Oliveira, 19-3 record, has a lot of momentum. Yeah, man, the dude's honestly a monster. You know, if you look at his topology picture, he has 2 belts. So clearly, you know, that shows he was two division champion coming out of UAE Warriors. Yeah, man, he's a really, really, really just devastating striker. 15 wins by way of knockout. Out of 19 wins, you know, definitely lets you know he likes to throw them hands, you know. Yeah, I mean, I was gonna go with Vinicius Oliveira in this fight as well. I'm gonna have Vinicius like second round knockout.
Okay, I like it.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Sopaj though, man. Always love dudes going in there, you know, putting on the fights for our entertainment. You know, always appreciate that. You know,
Sweden
of
versus
course.
Brazil.
Right, yeah, it's an interesting matchup. You know how we know how world class the sport is getting now. It's always really fun to witness these international matchups. You know, love the flags. You feel me? But yeah, I mean, going into this feature prelim of the night, I want to thank y'all again for joining us on this late night edition of MMAHOLICS. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Please ring that notification bell so you do know that when we do go live. And you guys can join us for our gaming sessions and our regular late night sessions or our afternoon sessions, you know, whenever we go live. Always love having y'all here. And yeah, moving on to the feature prelim for the main card. Yeah, I got Eric Anders versus Jamie Pickett. Shout out to Jamie Pickett. I met him back at UFC 285 when he lost to Bo Nickel. He was at the bar that night. And he was like, really, he wasn't in a bad mood, you know. So I guess like he himself knew he was going to get another fight. We do know that there was a low blow in that matchup, unfortunately, for Jamie Pickett. But we're going to see what the Night Wolf does this time, of course. You know, shout out to Jamie Pickett. He's fighting Eric Anders in this one. Of course, Eric Anders, you know, he's had a fairly up and down UFC career. A former linebacker for the University of Alabama. And like, yeah, like, you know, he's a fairly good fighter, man. When he can put it together, he has good powers in his hands. It's a fairly strong individual. Like I said, you know, he played D1 football, so that definitely lets you know he's a really, really strong individual. Lifelong athlete. Still fairly athletic to this day inside of the cage. This has to be more active in the matchups. You know, throw more volume. He's a really powerful guy when he can put it all together. You know, but I really think it's just a matter of how he fares with the weight cut in this matchup. We do know that Eric Anders has fought up before as well. So I would like to see him just make this weight safely. And yeah, man, just come out here with a good game plan against Jamie Pickett. Jamie Pickett, like we're gonna see what's gonna happen, man. He's come out 4 losses. I really feel like, you know, if anything's gonna light a fire under you, it's gonna be those losses. You know, especially to shut everyone up that's just doubting you and thinks you can't, you know, that thinks you're not UFC caliber. He has a 13-10 record, but like I always say, you know, you fight who you're given. And clearly, you know, like, hey, the UFC wanted to give him another chance. Coming off that Josh Frim loss, they couldn't let him go. That was a 4th loss in a row then, and they still give him a 5th fight. So clearly they see something in Jamie Pickett. And again, shout out to Jamie Pickett. Met him at 285. But yeah. My pick in this fight, I was gonna go with Eric Anders in this fight, your boy. I'm really just gonna go with the athleticism and the size in this fight, man. I think on the feet he'll be more powerful. Still really athletic, you know. He has 9 wins by knockout out of his 15 wins. So, and he only has 1 loss via TKO. I mean, like, you know, like 1 loss via KO period, you know. So I do think that he's still fairly durable in his career. And yeah, man, I think just he can get it done. It won't be a pretty fight by any means, but I think Anders can get it done. How you feeling?
Yeah. I think this one's interesting, right? Because Jamie Pickett does have a nice reach advantage, and as you said, Anders isn't too aggressive. So I think Pickett will definitely keep him at range. They're going to stall a little bit, but it's going to be back and forth striking and be on the feet for the most part, if not the whole fight. The thing is, at plus 390, because he's on a 4-fight losing streak, it's almost interesting to take Jamie Pickett on this one. Just because, I mean, Eric Anders is so up and down in his career. It's not like a set in stone, like they're feeding Pickett to the wolves since he has 4 losses. I mean, this is a very winnable fight for him.
Right. Absolutely.
I think he goes to decision either way. But I'm going to take Pickett in this fight on a decision win.
I got you, man.
I take one underdog on the card, man. This
For
is the one.
sure. No, I get it. And hey, the payout is pretty incredible, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm not talking about like a plus 600 to a minus 900 fight, but I think Anders at minus 520 is simply because of the 4 losses that Pickett has and not because of the skill gap. You know what I mean?
right. Mm-hmm. Now I get it. You know, hopefully Jamie can come out here and be more aggressive. You know, I think Eric, you know, coming off this loss and knowing who he's fighting in this fight, I think he's going to come out there and try to eat him alive. You know, Jamie might be on, you know, the edge of retirement maybe, and just knowing that like, you know, he could be in that mindset, he might go out there and just try to, you know, Rozenstruik, Chris Dawkins type of finish. You know. And actually, yeah, it's funny because he's fighting on this card. But yeah, moving on to the main card of this fight night, UFC Vegas 87. Decent card so far, decent prelims, you know, like entertaining to say the least for sure. But all these main card fights are really, really good. I love all these fights for sure. Starting out with Schnell versus Steve Erceg. I was gonna go with Steve Erceg in this fight, bro. I really like his momentum. We know that Matt Schnell has a lot of heart, very durable. You know, we saw him come back from the jaws of defeat versus Shumu Darji and get that submission off his back. So we do know that he is a good fighter. I mean, like, you know, he can pull it out. You know, like it's you can't really count him out like that. You know, he still has a decent chin. You know, still decent striker. And yeah, he has a lot of experience as well. He definitely can't count out his experience. He has more experience than Steve Erceg, of course. UFC experience and fight experience as well. But yeah, man, but when it comes to Steve Erceg, I just think coming off that David Dvorak performance, excuse me, he really showed his level in that David Dvorak performance to come in and fight a ranked flyweight and go toe to toe and like match every scramble and in block almost every strike. I mean, have just a masterclass performance on a fighter like David Dvorak. You know, he looked great, you know, coming off that debut. And I believe that was on short notice as well. When he fought David Dvorak. And then we saw him beat Alessandro Costa. I think Alessandro Costa is one of the best flyweights that's unranked. You know, he's a great fighter. I really do believe that. He has great striking, great grappling. Alessandro Costa still just has to put it all together. He's still fairly young. And I think he ran into a really like on fire, just, you know, like momentum like Steve Erceg. Steve has not lost since 2017. Now it's his second ever fight, and he's been doing the man dance ever since. Shout out to Sean Strickland. And yeah, man, I was gonna go with Steve Erceg in this fight by decision.
Yeah, I'm exactly with you there. I got Steve Erceg by decision. My reasoning for the decision is that Matt Schnell's not a bad fighter. You know what I mean? He's got the skill set to he's definitely finishable, right? But he's not a can at all by no means. So he has what it takes to drag this out to a decision. I just don't think that he's gonna be able to just outpoint Erceg in this fight.
I agree, definitely. Yeah, and then moving on to the next fight, got a lot of bangers on this main card. You know, really, at least if not bangers, got like some decent like showcases. You know, like you could say like for both fighters. You know, yeah, man, always love watching Umar Nurmagomedov fight. It was really unfortunate he couldn't get a ranked opponent. We know he was supposed to fight Corey Sandhagen. In that fight, I was picking Umar Nurmagomedov to win that fight. I thought it was a really close fight. I thought he could have got the wrestling edge on Corey Sandhagen. I thought he would have showed no fear on the feet. He's cut from the same cloth as his cousin. Indeed, he is. We see his undefeated record. That's not padded for what he's shown in the cage. You know, it's pretty crazy because he'll come out with the kicks, but the moment he needs to wrestle, he has S tier wrestling, just like all the other Nurmagomedovs. You know, and of course like Makhachev. You know, he's really just a really, really well-rounded fighter. I really want to see when he gets up there to the top of the division. And I really want to see. Sorry about that. I got a phone call. Really want to see when he gets to the top of the division and like he's finally in those big fights. I really can't wait to see that because I feel like it's really gonna be like the coming of like another Khabib. You know, I'm not even trying to hold on to the past or even say that because they're related. But like I said, he's cut from that same cloth. He is very elite on the feet, very elite on the ground. It's just a matter of the competition. He has to prove he can beat those dudes. and like that's the thing. You feel me? We really got to know that he can do that. Like, you know, what he's done to the lesser competition, to the upper echelon of the bantamweight division, and yeah, you know, Azat, you know, like this dude's um really cool. You feel me? I'm sorry about that, y'all. I was getting a text message. Bexat, I meant. Yeah, this is 16-1, man. He's a good fighter himself. You can really say like this dude's really versatile. You know, like 13 wins by knockout, and he has 2 wins via submission. But he is a good grappler. When he needs to showcase it. I do like, you know, like what he's shown in his fights. He has a lot of momentum himself right now, coming off a great win streak. You know, some of the fighters really good too. You know, beat a 14-1 dude, beat a 12-4 guy, beat a 15-5 guy. So he's showing he is a very high level fighter himself. It's gonna be a pretty crazy fight, man. It's pretty wild. Umar has to just fight this dude on, like, he's unranked, you know, coming out of nowhere, making his debut, and he has to fight a killer like this. There are dudes in like the top 7 and 8, 9 who wouldn't fight, you know, Bekzat, you know, like for no reason. You feel me? And he's doing it. You know, Umar gets nothing out of this. Of course, it would show that he beat another great opponent. But still, you know, we're gonna see how this goes. I got Umar Nurmagomedov in this fight. I just really love what he's shown in his fights, man, and he's a really high level fighter. Anywhere the fight goes, he'll be prepared for literally anything. Yeah, man, I think he's cut from that same cloth, and I got Umar Nurmagomedov by unanimous decision.
I like it. I'll keep it short and simple. I got Umar Nurmagomedov. I got him winning by a round 1 finish. I say this because he knows who he's fighting. He knows he's fighting a good fighter, and just because he hasn't proved nothing in the UFC yet, I think that's gonna even like light up that intensity in him. That like, I need to get this finish. It'll be impressive because people understand that he's like, people who know understand he's a good fighter. He's not just someone the UFC brought in. Like, this dude was coming to the UFC. It was just the timing, you know. They brought him in to fight Umar. But Umar's going to understand that, and if he gets a round 1 finish, it's going to look very impressive. It's going to look like his next fight should be Corey Sandhagen, you know. And he has the tool set to finish it, submission or knockout, you know. But that's what I'm picking.
Right. I bet. You can move on to the next one. Again, like, always love watching these showcases, these fights, man. And yeah, man, moving on to the featured bout of the night, Alex Perez versus Mohamed Mokaev. I really just want to see if Alex Perez shows up, man. He looked good. I believe he made weight. So he's showing that he does indeed want to be here. We know he had a lot of canceled bouts. And like most of it was probably injuries, you know. I'm happy he's fully healthy now, fully healthy enough to compete. You know, especially to give Mohamed Mokaev this opportunity. We know Mokaev, you know, like, he's a fantastic fighter. Has to get better on the feet. Not bad on the feet though. Just has to improve. We already know he's a great wrestler, good grappler. We saw him grapple with Jafel Filio like that and still get the victory. And Jafel's a crazy grappler himself. We saw what he did to Mokaev's knee, and Mokaev still like won that fight, pulled it out. You know, that was pretty insane. Really showed the championship-esque material and Mohamed Mokaev. But yeah, man, I'm gonna keep this one kind of short and sweet myself. For my pick in this one, I'm gonna go with Mohamed, man. I think he has a lot of momentum. I think any style that comes across, he will be prepared for it, and the grappling can really be used to nullify anything most of the these like middle flyweights do. When he gets to the Brandon Morenos and the Amir Albazis and Kai Kara Francis, that's when I really have to, and also Brandon Royvals, that's when he's really gonna have to really like make sure that he has everything really fine-tuned. Just as much as the grappling, he's gonna have to have like, you know, great striking, and all that, of course. And he has a lot of potential, a lot of upside. He's looked better with literally every single performance. And he's a sponge, man. He's really getting better. Always soaking up new knowledge in, like, you know, the training room. And yeah, I'm gonna go with Mohamed Mokaev by unanimous decision.
Yeah, this was easier for me. Just like seeing that Alex Perez hasn't fought in 3 years, and his last fight he got subbed in round. What? Yeah, he got finished in the first by Pantoja. You know, Pantoja's the champion, but I mean, just not fighting in 3 years. That ring rust is real. Ortega, he defied the odds. Sometimes people do; they come back after layoffs and fight, but it's not like a majority thing. And he's fighting Mokaev. Mokaev is relentless. He's gonna shoot for the takedowns. He's gonna keep going. There's certain fighters that they'll just keep going at you with those takedowns, and they get into their position really quick with the snap of their finger. They're ready where they want to be. I have Mokaev winning by submission in this fight. I think it'll be quicker rather than later too.
I bet. Okay.
I say under 1.5 rounds for this one with the submission.
Oh, for sure. I think it'd be a first round sub, most definitely. Maybe like the first 3 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, because he's gonna get right to it, man. It's gonna be that like that. If you don't know Mokaev, you just put it's that Hamzat energy. Run out there and shoot on the first, the first engagement to shoot for a takedown. Already take the back, and it's like, holy shit, this dude's got my back already. So yeah, keep that one nice and simple.
Yeah, and I agree for sure. And yeah, man, moving on to the co-main event of the evening. Tyson Pedro versus Vitor Petrino. Yeah, man, this is a good fight here. Two pretty athletic light heavyweights. Vitor Petrino, this man's undefeated. He's looked really good himself, bro. I do think he has a lot of good upside. Just has to really just become more composed in the fights. Pretty raw in the striking, how wing with the hooks and all that. Uppercuts but he's really getting better, man. Like with the striking, he has 7 wins by knockout. And it's honestly over some pretty good competition. We saw him beat Rodolfo Bellato twice, and that was a pretty crazy war. When he put him out like that, and Bellato had another war with Ihor Potieria, I think that was when Bellato fought him, and that was a crazy fight too. And yeah, man, he's a good fighter, man. Knocked out Modestas Bukauskas. Finished Marcin Prachnio with a submission when he couldn't finish him with the striking. He did it with a sub. So that's showing that he's always really working on every single part of the game in the training room. And he's 10-0, man. And he's 26 years old, bro. Just turned 26 in August. So yeah, man, he has a lot of upside. And yeah, man, we know Tyson Pedro, training partner of Israel Adesanya, Volkanovski, Dan Hooker, all them boys. Tyson Pedro is a good fighter himself. He's coming off that long layoff a while ago, but he bounced back from it pretty good. Coming off the injuries he had to deal with, got the win over the Pleasure Man after losing to Bukauskas. And yeah, man, he's a decent fighter himself. Pedro 6-4 inside the UFC. 5 wins come by way of knockout, 5 wins by way of submission. So he does have 100% finish rate. Never won by decision. And yeah, man, I was gonna go with Vitor Petrino in this fight. I just think he has a lot of momentum right now. Really young and athletic. And yeah, man, I think he'll be made for this matchup. If they try to brawl, he can be in the pocket, strike with Pedro all day. If he tries to grapple, he's really physically strong. I think he could pick Pedro up and maybe get him to the ground. If not, get a submission like that, just control him, hold him down off the physical strength. And yeah, man, I was gonna go with Petrino by decision. Just piece him up with the hands here and there, clinch him up, dirty boxing, and get some takedowns here and there, and win via unanimous decision.
Yep, I'm very similar with you. I would say they're about even strikers, right? Petrino's on his rise. He's getting better at striking. He got to I think he's at the level of where Pedro is right now. Pedro is also a great striker. I remember his last fight. He was the one who hit with the little sword right at the end of his fight. Yeah. I remember that was cool. Yeah, the Aussies are good, man. They're great strikers. They could be reckless sometimes, and I think that'll get him caught on a takedown. I think Petrino. I don't think he definitely has better wrestling, and that's gonna wear and tear in the fight. You said decision. I'm gonna say a round 3 knockout. I think by round 3, Pedro is gonna be very gassed in the fight due to 2 rounds of just having to grapple, when making mistakes. And I think Petrino will finish it in the 3rd.
Sounds good. And yeah, guys, moving on to the final fight of the evening. Got our main event of the evening, got a heavyweight main event. Rozenstruik versus Gaziev. So yeah, man, we got an undefeated prospect coming to the UFC veteran. We're gonna see how it goes. Rozenstruik, he's been fairly up and down throughout the UFC. Biggest hole for him is the grappling. We saw when he fought Jilton Almeida, he was able to get him to the ground like fairly easily. Got him to the ground, choked him out just like that. And yeah, man, I think like I always thought he was kind of maybe a little small for a heavyweight. He's 6'2". Anytime you see him in the face-offs, he's always mainly looking up most of the time. Of course, in frame, he's a big guy. But I think in terms of like just the height and stuff and like the reach, he rarely has a longer reach. And he's never taller. So he's always at a size disadvantage. And when it comes to Gaziev, this guy's pretty well-rounded himself. He's not just a wrestler like that. He can strike. We saw him striking with Martin Bidet like that, to the point where he finished him. Like it was, he's really looked great, man. All these knockouts, and like he has 3 submissions. And like, yeah, man, he's honestly a really good fighter. Undefeated. Really shown everything he's need to make it this far to the UFC, especially get a main event. Against the number 12 ranked fighter, and he's 34 years old, so he does have a lot of time. Heavyweight's getting really interesting. All these guys coming out. Almeida, Aspinall now hitting his new level. Of course, he was always good, but now he's hit that championship level, knocking out Sergey Pavlovich the way Aspinall did. And yeah, man, going into this fight, I was going to go with the momentum of Shamil Gaziev, man. I think he can really watch out for the striking of Jairzinho. I feel like Jairzinho really has to really get that uppercut, or that big overhand. I feel like Shamil can really close the distance before he can really try to get that striking distance and try to land a big shot. I feel like he can clinch him up, get the body lock, maybe get him to the ground like that, like Greco-Roman style. And yeah, get him to the ground and get like ground and pound or submission. If I had to pick, I'm gonna go with Shamil Gaziev by a second round submission. I almost said first, but I was like, I think I think you can get a second round sub. I think you can just weather the storm maybe in the first round. And he's a good striker himself. It's not like he's a bad striker. We saw how Volkov put it on Rozenstruik himself. Of course, Volkov is a great striker. Almost an anomaly at heavyweight with his striking. He's a great striker. Shout out to Volkov. But still, I think that Gaziev can either get the takedown or get the submission. And that's what I'm going for. And I was gonna go with Shamil Gaziev.
Yeah, I'm gonna be taking Shamil Gaziev too. I'm gonna be taking him by first round knockout.
Damn.
The last fight, just like I know Martin Bidet is not a Rozenstruik at all, but Bidet stayed on his feet very impressively after all those strikes. I don't know how many heavyweights are realistically going to stay on their feet after getting pressured like that against the cage. I mean, you could, if you have anyone in that situation. I mean, you get Jailton Almeida, you get Derek Lewis, any heavyweight punching you against the cage like that, you're probably going to fall and get a technical knockout. I think that's what's going to happen if he could get into that groove again where it's like 1, 2 body punch, one, if he's just throwing. And he has him, back against the cage. I think he's gonna, Jariza's gonna go down, and Shamil's gonna finish the fight in the first. If it goes past the first round, I'm not as confident in Shamil anymore. So I'm gonna take him in the first round with a knockout.
No, I get it.
Great pressure, great striking from him, from what I've seen. So it's a good fight for him.
And we know how it can be for fighters like Rozenstruik to have to fear the takedown constantly. And when especially when he has the striking that he's trying to use and can't really sit down on his punches the way he would if he wasn't fighting someone that had great wrestling in their back pocket, But yeah, guys, we were going to scan over the UFC 299 pay-per-view before we get out of here. I want to thank y'all again for joining us for episode 12 of MMAHOLICS. Please join us again next week for our official preview of the card we're about to scan over. We're back in Miami. This is going to be a pretty crazy pay-per-view. It is stacked from literally top to bottom. We have the final UFC 200, whatever you want to call it. It's pretty crazy. We are at the very end. And I feel like that's why they stacked it the way they did, man. It's the final UFC it's the end of an era, at the end of the UFC 200 eras. And yeah, man, it's honestly pretty exciting. they're closing it out with a really, 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 really great card. And we know how they do their one title fight pay-per-views. Most of the time, those are always supremely stacked, just to make up for the lack of title fights. And yeah, man, like this is a great card. Dustin Poirier versus Benoit Saint-Denis. Of course, that's 5 rounds, so it's like we got double main events, because we know that could definitely main event a fight night with fans. Like if they went to San Diego or something, Poirier versus Saint-Denis could definitely be the main event and all that kind of stuff. So it's like having 2 main events. We got the debut of Michael Venom Page coming over from Bellator. Been waiting for a long time to see how this dude would do. And in the NBA, the NFL of fighting, mixed martial arts. Always wanted to see how he would do inside the UFC. And yeah, man, it's a good card, man. Petr Yan versus Song Yadong. Like, which fight do you want to see the most, you think?
Petr Yan Song Yadong is a really good one. I'm interested in Jailton Almeida and Curtis Blades, only because last fight got a lot of flack with the Derek Lewis. Like, there's a few fights I'm obviously interested in. I'm interested if I want to see Gamrot finish Dos Anjos. Because Dos Anjos is, he's very durable. So I'm wondering if Gamrot, I wonder if Michel Pereira is gonna fight. I wonder if he's gonna fight Ian Cutabella. That's gonna be a good one. But obviously, anything Petr Yan and up is like a dominant fight. This fight right here, probably the best fight of the night, if we're being honest. Gilbert
Burns first, yeah.
Oh my God. Gilbert Burns coming off the injury, but Gilbert Burns, I mean, he is like so close to a household name. It's insane. He's just like such a good fighter, dude. He could do it all. Has some of the best jiu-jitsu in the UFC, but he's a powerful striker. And you got Jack Della Maddalena, is one of the best, easily the best stand-up fighters in the welterweight division.
Welterweight, yeah.
You got Kevin Holland versus MVP. This one's going to be a flashy fight more than anything, in my opinion.
Spectacle.
They're both just going to put on a show. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be a Wonder Boy and Holland-esque, if you ask me. Poirier, Saint Denis. Early spoiler, this dude Poirier is not playing. That's all I'm going to say. I know Saint Denis is a killer. Put some respect on Poirier's name, guys. I see a lot of hate online. And then you got the main event, right? Like, it's a lot of flack for this. If they didn't fight in the past, Chito Vera is not fighting for a title right now. I mean, he lost to Sandhagen, and then he beat who did he beat in his last? Was it not Munoz?
It was Munoz.
Pedro Munoz in his last fight.
Pedro.
He looked good in the fight, but I don't think that was a fight that said this guy's next in line for a belt. But at the same time, these dudes are very, very well matched for each other. It's just going to be a ranged fight for O'Malley. He's going to have to keep him at range. We got to see, like, O'Malley only has a handful of fights, right? Like that people actually care about, If honestly, it's only probably 2 people care about, right? Besides the Chito Vera fight, people only really care about his last 2 fights. Everything else he gets so much hate for. Right. And you understand why a lot of these dudes, if not all, are out of the UFC now. Aljo, Chito Vera was saying on an interview that I was watching just before this that everyone in bantamweight knows that Aljo can't strike and is a nightmare matchup. Sean O'Malley is. In the Petr Yan fight, a lot of people don't think Sean O'Malley won. Sounds like a lot of hate to me. Sean O'Malley is a very good fighter, but I think this is a fight that really proves where he stands. If he could finish Chito Vera, it puts him above. If it goes to a decision and he gets, beat up, I think it's going to do a lot more damage than it does as adding a title defense, if you get what I mean. I think he needs to finish Sean O'Malley.
Really? Again?
Because if he doesn't get the finish, it doesn't look like a good title defense, because it's like, this dude already beat you. You know what I mean? But if you finish him, it's like, it's different. But if you go to a decision in a striking fight, because neither of them are going to take each other down. Sandhagen took down Chito, and that's why he won that fight. Sean O'Malley, I don't think is going to engage in grappling. And if you're Sean O'Malley, you have to win the stand-up. You're Sean O'Malley, right? That's like what you're known for, is your striking. So you have to win that, by a knockout.
One of the best strikers in like inside the UFC, undoubtedly. I'd definitely say top 10. Top 5 is arguable. You could definitely put him in the top 5, though, with a good argument. Sean O'Malley. He's one of the 8 kings, of course. 8 male divisions, y'all. And yeah, man. It's a great card. I'm honestly really excited for it. And I do want to go on with what you were talking about, like whether even with the main event itself. I was watching that Brett Okamoto interview, and like I get it, like he beat Pedro Munoz to get the title shot. And not everyone likes that. You feel me? Like I respect that 100%. But it's, for me, it's just like, hey, at least we get to see what like a title fight with Cheeto would have looked like. At least he could have fought for the belt. We see like in these other sports like basketball and football, so many NBA, NFL players come through, never make the Super Bowl, never make the NBA finals. This man's at the top of the mountaintop. He's headlining a pay-per-view, the last pay-per-view of the UFC 200, right before 300. There's gonna be so many people there that night. He's Venezuelan, so and then this is in Miami. It's a very big Latin community. It's gonna be a lot of people out there for Cheeto. Honestly, I didn't think about that. Cheeto might get the biggest pop of the night. To be quite honest,
it's going to be interesting. Yeah, because Cheetos has a lot of there's going to be a lot of fans there for him. But I mean, Miami is like Sean O'Malley Central in a way. So I think you're going to hear the boos more for Sean O'Malley than you're going to hear the cheers for Cheeto Vera. You know what I mean? There's definitely going to be boos for Sean O'Malley. You're going to hear, and people are going to be a little surprised.
Right, we're going to see how the press conference goes to really get a gauge on that. It's gonna be fun, man. It's gonna be an entertaining fight week. We know they don't like each other like that and all. I just want to see what's gonna happen. I was watching the Brett Okamoto interview, and like it was cool to really, because like when the UFC pay-per-view fight weeks happen, and like the whole presentation changes. They have like those HD interviews on the couch like that, like movie style, and like it's really cool, man. I really like how they really sat him down and really like. I mean, like for one night at least, he's gonna be like the talk of the town, like sharing that with Sean O'Malley. Like it's cool that his name gets to be around gold at least, on a pay-per-view poster when it's like versus and gold, like all the gold font and presentation and stuff like that. It's cool that we get to see what that would have been like. Like he might not have ever fought for a title. He might have only had like fight night main events and stuff like that. So it's cool to see that win. Like he cashed his token when he got that win back at UFC 250, I think it was, when he beat Sean that first time, like that really, he put that in his back pocket. That was an amazing investment. And now we've seen that investment has paid off, man. That got him a title shot. He's fighting in the main event of one of the most stacked pay-per-views of the year, almost all time, to be quite honest. You won't find many more cards, more cards that look better than this one. 299 and 300 are literally two of the most stacked cards of all time, back to back. So a lot can change on this card. It's a lot of storylines on 299 and 300. We know Dustin is 35 years old, fighting a 27-year-old, I believe, Benoit Saint Denis. And Dustin's number 3 versus the number 12 ranked Benoit. So Benoit's trying to get that shiny number 3 off of Dustin, and it's really hard to get that. He's been here for a really, really long time. Just having that number 3 next to his name means he's gonna fight on a pay-per-view all the time. Or a fight night main event, regardless. It's a big fight, and having that big number next to your name means you're a player. You can step up to welterweight and fight the number 2 guy because that's a big contender fight. Or like he could still fight for the belt. You don't want to let that ranking go. That's why most dudes don't retire when they have that high ranking next to their name, let alone have the title. So we're gonna see if that can happen. I would have thought MVP would have got a higher opponent given his like how much they paid for him, how popular he is. I think they just want a good introductory opponent and someone they know that's gonna strike. They want someone they know that's gonna strike. So that's why they called up Kevin. Kevin was like, for sure, I'm gonna do it. Like, why wouldn't I? It's in Miami. It's on the pay-per-view. It's the feature bout, so it's gonna be super packed out by the time they both make that walk. And yeah, man, it's a lit night. We're gonna see how 299 goes. Guys, definitely watch out for our social media to know the day we're gonna do this. Probably be in the middle of the week. And definitely just keep an eye on the channel for when we go live. Don't forget to put the notification bells on so you do know when we do go live for our 299 pay-per-view. Of course, if we got time next Saturday night, We'll probably go live after the fights, especially if it's that crazy of a card, an absolute classic. And also, we can't forget, guys, don't forget that Francis Ngannou is boxing Anthony Joshua, and that is the Friday before this. That's on March 8th. So definitely don't forget about that fight as well. We'll probably talk about that fight when we're doing our UFC 299 preview, our actual live stream for it. So definitely come join us for that. And we might have a special guest too. So, and yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining us, and God bless y'all. And good night. Unless you got anything else, Nikki, are you good?
Peace.
Peace, y'all. Thank y'all so much.